college student, so I've got 1,800 Bibles. You know, it's just part of the name. So we are continuing our Ruth series. We are in the 3rd chapter, and I'm diving right in today because I've got a ton of scripture that we're going to unpack, and I don't want to waste any precious moments. Yeah. Recapping quickly. Basically, our last chapter, we discussed this beautiful love story. It's this kind of Boaz and Ruth flirting with each other, getting to know each other, this beautiful relationship, and now we're into this really fun passage where I titled it Preparation, Proposal, and Provision. Yeah. Simple ways that it breaks up this passage. I'm going to read through this in a time-oriented way. Pretty much I want to summarize that this chapter is broken up into 3 different times of the day. You have after work, Ruth gets off her shift, tired, and then Naomi is instructing her to do something. You have evening or midnight, actually is what it says, and that's where she goes to Boaz and all the fun stuff goes down. Yeah. And then we have the end, which is kind of the next morning, and that's when she returns home to Naomi and kind of discusses what's next. So, now that we have a time frame, I want to quickly read over starting in verse 1 of chapter 3. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be provided for. Now, Boaz, with whose women you have worked, is a relative of ours. Tonight he will be winnowing barley in the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, get dressed in your best clothes, and then go down to the threshing floor. But don't let him know that you are there until he's finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, take note of where he's lying. Go, uncover his feet, and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." Okay, that's strange. The whole thing is strange. You can't read that and go, "Oh yeah, that's totally normal. That's just a common occurrence for me." No. I want to start. Let's get the time, let's get the setting going. Okay, Ruth just got done working in the fields all day. So manual labor, 8, 10, 12 hours. And now her mother-in-law is saying, "Okay, now you're all sweaty and gross. I want you, instead of just relaxing, kicking off the shoes, enjoying the evening, I want you to go get dressed, best clothes, get all dolled up to go meet this man in basically a wheat field." And she's like, "What? I'm sorry, that's insane. If I was her, I'd be like, can I do it another day, another time? I'm exhausted, my feet are tired, I don't want to do that." But instead, she listens to Naomi faithfully and just goes and does it without hesitation. Yeah. Another thing I want to make note of is Ruth's beauty. We've talked about this in the first 2 chapters, and it's very, very evident here that we see her beauty, not just in the fact that she's putting on perfume and getting dressed, but by her actions. She goes willingly. She does this instantly and doesn't rebuke anything that her mother-in-law is saying to her. A lot of Ruth's beauty that we see in the book is actually not explicit. It never says that she's beautiful or gorgeous or the most stunning woman, but because of her actions, which we will see throughout this chapter, we see what a beautiful woman she is inwardly that is expressed outwardly. Yeah. I want to keep that as a caveat as we're reading. Now, moving on. Before we get anywhere, I want to talk about what a threshing floor is, because it's misinterpreted. Yeah. When people read this passage, they picture Boaz in his bedroom and blah, 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 and he's all regal and all this stuff. And no, he's here with some cows hanging out. So what this is it's a threshing floor. It's a circle. Sometimes it's made out of stone, sometimes it's dirt, and what's used is harvest. So Ruth's job is to actually get grain, harvest all of that, and then it gets taken here. Here's where they get, whether it's a horse or an ox or whatever, they have them stomp all over it to basically break up the harvest, the good from the bad. So what they're doing is they're trying to separate the grain. So they go to the circle, they have animals walk all over it to break the kernels, which separates what they call the chaff or the rubbish. And then these guys will take kind of pitchforks and they throw it up in the air. They're not tossing it over themselves. What they're doing is they're using the wind to actually take the shell, the chaff, blow it away because it's light, and the grain drops to the ground. Yeah. Then it's their job to pick up the grain that gets taken somewhere else, shipped, and all that stuff, and that's where their money comes from. So very, very, very valuable space, but not romantic at all. I'm making that a caveat. This is not a romantic space whatsoever. We read that passage and we think it is, and it's not. Actually, if I was Ruth, I'd be kind of upset. I put on my best perfume and I have to go to that. That's gross. But she does it willingly. So let's read on. Starting in verse 5, I will do whatever she says, whatever you say, Ruth returns. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached him quietly and uncovered his feet. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asks. I want to stop here real quick. Now, some people will say that this is Boaz not knowing who Ruth is. We know that they've actually seen each other. He's acknowledged her. This is simply, it's pitch black and there's no lights and he can't see. And somebody just uncovered his feet and he's a little shocked. I would be shocked too. And then I want to go on and read at verse 9. "Who are you?" he asks. "I am your servant Ruth," she says. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are my guardian redeemer." You are my guardian redeemer. This is the biggest part of this passage. And this is where I want to spend a lot of our time. What she's saying is, it's a weird way of being like, spread your garment over me. Like, what is she kind of getting at? She's proposing. What she's saying is, come save me, protect me, provide for me, be my husband. So it's kind of fun. We get this weird, like, Hallmark movie. Okay, let's picture it. So Ruth gets all gussied up. She goes to the harvest little field circle, the threshing floor, and uncovers his feet. And then she proposes. Ooh, plot twist. She proposes to him? What? And this is simply her just saying, please be my guardian redeemer. Please take care of me. The point of this that I want to talk about is that guardian redeemer is huge. It can be translated as kinsman redeemer or guardian redeemer. I really love how NIV says it because these two words are beautifully intertwined. Guardian is simply defined as a defender, protector, or keeper. Redeemer is someone who compensates for faults or who gains possession of something in exchange for a payment. So what Boaz is to Ruth is the one who will marry her, who will provide for her needs, who will provide for her family's needs, who will give her security, protection, money, food, everything, right? He's a protector. There's a payment on his end. He has to actually pay for this stuff. He has to do these things. And that's where the payment comes in, but he's the one who gets to protect her. So basically, you could summarize a guardian redeemer as someone who protects and defends because of a possession or treasure by payment. Possession or treasure by payment. Yeah, good. Hold on to that, because we're going to come back to there. Okay, reading on. Verse 10. "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not ran after the younger men, whether rich or poor. But now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. All the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character." Stopping there. This is insane. This passage gets crazy because here we have this fact of Ruth says, "Will you marry me?" And he says, "I will give you everything I can. I will give you all." We see it twice in this verse. All that I have. And he says a beautiful part. He references her own beauty in pursuing the one who can protect her. Now, we know that Ruth is a beautiful woman. We discussed that. She could have had other guys. She could have had younger guys. She could have had any guy that she liked, but she chose to pursue the one who could actually provide for her needs, not just in the moment. And so we see that he actually says, well done, noble woman. You didn't run after the other guys. You didn't pursue false security. Instead, you chose to pursue the one that will actually take care of you. And he notes her noble character. That's a big deal. In that society, Ruth was an outcast. And so the fact that he acknowledges her as beautiful and noble and that her character is of worth is huge, massive. And there's beauty in the fact that our guardian redeemer notes her. He sees her. He sees her character past what society sees. Reading on. Although it is true that I'm your guardian redeemer of our family, there's another one who is more closely related than I. Stay here tonight and in the morning. If he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning. So she laid at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. He said, no one must know that a woman was at the threshing floor. He also said, bring me your shawl you are wearing and hold it out. And when she did, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed a bundle on her head and went back to town. That's the evening portion, evening and the morning, right? So she got all gussied up, got all ready. Then we had the moment at midnight where she proposed to Boaz, and now he's sending her home. It's the morning. What I want to mention here is the fact that there was an option for another guardian redeemer. When I mention this, when I read this passage, I read, ooh, a little plot twist. And I think there's beauty in the fact that the Lord created Boaz to be the character he is throughout the book. And though that somebody else could have came into that position, the Lord was faithful through and through and working the plan that he had as somebody else could have taken his place. And there was somebody in that family line that could have done his job. But we see the Lord intertwining his plan and working it out, even when we don't see the details. I mean, if I was Ruth in that situation, I'd be sweating. Okay, I thought I had this assurance of security, and now there's a possibility that my guardian redeemer is not right in front of me. That's a scary moment. But the Lord uses Boaz and uses his working power when they don't see it. So that in that night, it doesn't matter. She's sitting there with her guardian redeemer. That's beautiful. Finishing up. Verse 16. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? She told her everything Boaz had done for her and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother empty-handed. Then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens from the man who will not rest until the matter is settled today. Right. Wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens. It's kind of the to be continued of this passage. Like, ooh, ... what's next? And that's what we get into in the next chapter. But there's beauty in the wait. And so this is where I want to run through all that scripture so that we understand, because this passage is confusing and can be misinterpreted many, many, many times. But I want to first run through so that we know what we're looking at. Here's the reality for us. This passage is a beautiful love story. Yeah. It's gorgeous. And like I said, if anybody likes Hallmark movies, kind of Hallmark movie is, a little cringy on the side, but also really cool and beautiful. But if we're just reading it as a love story, we are missing 90% of this story. It's beautiful, the relationship that Ruth and Boaz have. But this passage should be read as a mirror. And that's where we are today. You and I are Ruth. We are seeking security. We are seeking love. We are seeking identity. Boaz represents Jesus, the guardian redeemer, the one who gains possession of, who cherishes a prize by a payment. I think it's so fitting that we did communion today in the sense of we're reminding ourselves of a beautiful sacrifice paid so that we can have relationship with the Lord. This is a reflection of this, and we'll see it at the end of this book. So a little cliffhanger, but we'll see it at the end of the book, the fruition of this whole story come together. But what I want to really hone in on you guys is, who are you seeking? Going back to where she talks about she's a noble woman because she pursued the one who could protect her. She had opportunities for other men. She could have sought false security or false hope or in the moment spontaneous pleasure, but instead she says, no, the Lord's instructed me to pursue the one who can take care of me forever, her guardian redeemer. How often do we seek what's good in the moment? If we're Ruth and Boaz is Jesus in this picture, we're called to pursue him as the one who will protect us, as the one who will provide for us. But that's not easy to do. Let's be real. Life gets busy, life gets crazy, and before we know it, we forget. And we run to other things, and we're seeking other things. And this passage is such a very, very, very strong reminder to remember, who are you seeking? You know, are you seeking a job security or financial stability or a healthy family or a romantic relationship? Are you seeking these earthly pleasures, these things that will satisfy your earthly needs? Because just as Boaz says to her, well done for not pursuing that. He says, good job. You didn't fall into the traps that you could have. You stayed faithful to pursuing what the Lord has for you. Yeah. That's what we're called to do. It can be really, really hard. I mean, it's challenging. I can look back at my own life, and I mean, I'm a senior at college, I'm almost done, and look back at even deciding where I was going to school. And for some of you guys, that was an easy decision. Some of you guys have gone to school or didn't go, and for some of you, that was a hard decision. For me, I really struggled with that. That decision was really, really hard because I had schools that were fun, that were cool, I had great community. I had schools that were really hard and challenging and that were going to stretch me. And I had to realize, what am I seeking for in a school? Am I seeking to grow closer into my relationship with the Lord, or am I seeking to fulfill some college desires I had? That was the truth. What was I seeking in those moments? Pursuing God, pursuing what I wanted in the moment. You know, I look at our finances and money and how that can be such a security for so many of us. But if I've learned anything in the last 2 years, that's not how it works. It doesn't work. And Ruth is the best example of what it means to pursue our guardian redeemer. Our guardian redeemer is Christ. It's not Boaz. And when we look at communion and we look at the sacrifice the Lord paid for us, he, like David said, he had 6 hours of anguish, separated from the Father, for us, for you and I. He didn't need to do that. He chose to do that. He chose to pay a price, just like Boaz is paying a price for Ruth, for you and I. He is the protection. He is the one we should be seeking, knowing that he sought us when we weren't even looking. He's seeking us continually. Boaz wasn't surprised by the fact that it was Ruth that was there. He was startled. Yeah. But he was ready, and he was willing, and he was able. And the Lord's standing there saying, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm able. Just ask. Yeah. Ruth made the bold moment of saying, like, will you marry me? And Boaz didn't even hesitate. It was an instantaneous yes. The Lord's standing there waiting, and he's waiting, and he's waiting, and he's waiting. And he's saying, just ask. I want you to seek me, because there's beauty that comes from that. There's protection that comes from that. There's security that comes from that. And we see that. I mean, he doesn't leave her empty-handed. He sends her home with a lot of valuable barley, which is a lot of money at the time and was going to provide for her for a long time. Yeah. It's what her family needed. And by her pursuing the proper person, by pursuing her guardian redeemer, she then was blessed and provided for. And she didn't have to seek the working extra shifts or taking a really, really not fun job just because you need the money, or not valuing time with family so that you can work more. No. She had opportunity after opportunity to work her butt off, pretty much. But instead she chose to go sit at the feet of her guardian redeemer, and he supplied everything she needed.
That's good.
Who are you seeking? My next question for you today is, where is your provision? They're tied together. Who are you seeking, and where's your provision? It's easy to think life is great when everything is going well. And you're getting the paychecks, you're getting the bonuses, family's doing good, you're not having any big troubles going on. It's easy. But when life goes poorly, where's your provision? When the job isn't there, when the money's not there, when the family's falling apart, what's providing for you? See, Boaz was the one who could actually supply her needs. And I say it over and over and over again because this story is a mirror. Boaz is Jesus. Jesus is the only one who can provide our needs. So if we're seeking false provision from the world, from tangible things, it's not going to come to be. It's not going to work. I look at my own life, and it's a funky story, but about 9 months ago, I had surgery on my ankle, which was a big deal for me. I'm a huge runner, and I was not excited about the recovery process or any of that. I'm a very independent person. My parents will tell you that they raised 2 45-year-olds who are independent like no other. And so I'm very independent, and to ask for help is something super hard for me to do. And so preparing the surgery, I had everything ready to go. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to end up I couldn't bear weight for like 7 weeks, and so I was trying to figure out, how do I work? How do I do this? And I'm creating my life around this situation going on, and I'm stuck in my own world. And I'm thinking, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can provide for all my needs, I can take care of it all. I couldn't take care of it all. I was on one leg. There was no way I was going to be able to take care of it all. And the Lord kind of stopped me in that moment and said, wait. Where am I in the equation? I'm the greatest healer. I'm the greatest provider. I'm the one who can sustain you through this. Why aren't you seeking me? Yeah. Instead, you're trying to cultivate your world around everything that you think needs to be done. The Lord was just saying, come pursue me. Come ask me. Yeah. Ruth asked Boaz, and the Lord provided. I needed to ask the Lord. I need to literally say, Lord, I need you to provide all my needs. I need you to do it because I can't. And when I did that, it shifted. I'm not saying it's easy. It was not. But there was an openness to letting my family in, letting my friends in. The Lord provided support and community. And He also provided a deeper relationship with Him. If you ask me what I did this summer, I will say I grew in my dependence on the Lord, because that's the truth. I couldn't have done it without Him, and it's because I actually asked Him. He did not have to, but He chose to have a relationship with me. And He chose to provide for me, and He does it lovingly. When we look at Boaz's character, it's an act of love. Yeah. It's all out of love for the one that he sees as so beautiful. Not just by the way she looks, but by her actions. And we see that throughout the book, over and over and over. And so my question for you is, where do you find your provision? Are you finding it in things of this world? Are you finding it in money? Are you finding it in security? Or are you actually sitting in the Lord and saying, you know what, even when things are good, even when my life is good, I know it's because of you, because you're providing. As believers, these are the truths that we forget. And so it's beautiful to reflect on this story and see this marriage come together, this relationship come together that is simply a mirror to our relationship with the Lord. Ruth and Boaz are just a promise that's going to be fulfilled in the future. The Lord is constantly working out a promise. Yeah. And we'll see it at the end, and we'll see it in her lineage. But we can see it today in this passage by the fact of she pursued her kinsman redeemer. Yeah. And the promise that comes to be is we don't have to have a kinsman redeemer like Ruth. We get to have the kinsman redeemer. Amen. And so that's the provision. That's the protection. It's in Christ. It's because of what we just reflected on 20 minutes ago. His sacrifice is the reason that I get to live in knowing that my protection and my provision and my stability and my strength and my courage and the attributes I love about myself are rooted in him, in his sacrifice, and his choice to have a relationship with me. And all I have to do is ask. My push for you guys as you read this book and examine and reflect as you put yourself in Ruth's shoes is to really look. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up knowing the word. I grew up having faith. But there are seasons in my life where I forget these truths. And this book is a reminder of the promise that's to come, that we already know. They didn't know the promise to come when they were reading this. We get to see the end result, the New Testament, Christ's sacrifice. That's the fulfillment. And so my push for you guys is to remember, it's hard. Life gets busy, life gets crazy, and sometimes God gets put on the back burner. And if this passage teaches you anything, my prayer is that it teaches you to pursue the Lord, to ask the Lord. The door's open. And sometimes when we're already in a relationship with him, we forget to continually pursue and pursue and pursue and ask and ask and ask. Because that's all he's asking of us. Just ask. Just come. I want to lavish you with love. I want to lavish you with blessings. I want to lavish you with protection. There's a security in this season of life, in this last few years, that this passage brings to me. And my prayer is that it's to you guys too. The last few years have been some of the most insecure, unknown, scary years in a long time. And this passage is what we're called to do in seasons like that, right? Ask. Because he will be our security, and he will be our provision, and he always has been. And so you take root in those truths. You take root in Christ's sacrifice for you. God is constantly moving, continually working, never stopping. Ruth's story is a beautiful, beautiful mirror to how God is continually working, never stopping in our own lives. Put yourself in Ruth's shoes. Could you imagine going after a day of work and getting yourself gussied up before the Lord? That doesn't mean it has to be a physical, all dressed up, but a spiritual. Pursuing that. Saying, you know what, yeah, I am going to pursue this. And then going and sitting at his feet and asking him. It doesn't have to be the actual middle of the night. The middle of the night could be 10 a.m. in your day. But asking him in that dark moment, will you be my Redeemer? You already are, so will you provide? Will you be my security? I have this desire. I have this issue. My heart's crying out for this. And Lord, I'm asking you to protect me. I'm asking for security. And when we sit in that reverence and sit in that truth and take those moments with the Lord, those intimate moments that Ruth is having with Boaz in a wheat field, there's beauty and there's peace and there's comfort in seasons of everything, from security to unknown. And he lavishes us when we just ask. He lavishes us when we ask. He is our security and our provision for everything. I just pray that that is your biggest reminder as we go into the holiday season. It can be hectic, it can be crazy, it can be overwhelming. And the Lord's like, hey, I'm here. Invite me in. Invite me to Thanksgiving. Invite me to Christmas. Ask me. I want to come. And so that's my prayer for you guys, that as we enter this season of busyness, we don't forget to sit at the feet of the Lord and ask him for every desire we have in our hearts, every hurt we have in our hearts. And I want to give you an opportunity. If you aren't in a relationship with the Lord and you don't feel like you have the space to ask him these questions, I want to give you that opportunity to invite him into your life.